Hey, welcome back to this channel. This episode, we're talking about Malik Monk re-signing with the Kings. If you haven't already, please hit the like and subscribe down below. Be greatly appreciated. So, last night, just sitting around the house, open up Twitter, see Monk signed a 4-year, $78 million contract to stay with the Kings. With that news, I had to have my sister back on to talk about Monk and him staying in Sacramento. Huge news. How do you feel about that news?
I feel awesome about that news. Um, Super excited. I pulled up Instagram before I saw your text about it and sent it to you right away. And then I was like, oh, yeah, of course, he's already sent it to me on the group chat. So, um, big news for the city of Sac and, all Sacramento Kings fans. We love Malik Monk. Last time we talked about what we thought the Kings needed to do in the off season. They had just extended Mike Brown's coaching contract and talked about what other new moves they needed to make. And we said next on the list was seeing if we can get Malik Monk to resign. And here we are. So far, the Kings are 2 for 2 on what we said they needed to do in this off season, and that's great news. Something I think that's not always a given as a Sacramento Kings fan, that they're actually gonna like make the moves and make the deals that they need to make. So um, just celebrating that. Glad to see that Malik's gonna be back on our team next year. Can't wait for that first game and see if he gets a standing ovation because he definitely deserves that.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge ovation. I think one of the main things too is normally King's Twitter is divided about, oh, good move, bad move, oh, they should have done this, they should have done that. I think it's almost I've seen nothing but everyone being happy that he is re-signed and staying with the Kings. This might be the first time in Kings Twitter history that everyone agrees with and is happy that he is back. And
Yeah, I mean it's a lot to do, I think, with the chemistry on the team.
yeah,
Who we have, we have a lot of players that you can really kind of fall in love with in terms of the personalities they bring to the team. Honestly, that was one of the things that scared me and thought made me think Malik was maybe leaving was, Sacramento is a small market. We're a smaller city, not as much like of a nightlife, high end fashion kind of vibe. And Malik is like so fashionable. Like he's all about the vibes. Don't get me wrong, I'm a Sacramento fan girl. Sacramento's got the vibes, but I could also see him going to somewhere like Miami and having the time of his life and, bringing his fashion game with him. And I'm just so stoked that he saw that potential here in Sacramento. Probably turned down some money that he could have made somewhere else,
oh, easily.
a little bit more with a
Oh,
different market and
like
chose
Orlando,
to stay here.
there's a chance Orlando could have offered him over 100 mil. So
Yeah.
he lost possibly 30 mil, but it shows how much he likes Sacramento too, because they kind of helped put him on the map. And like we
Yeah.
talked about last night, Coach Brown's coaching. It's hard coaching, but it brings out the best in the players. And he gets to play with his best friend Fox, which I think helped a lot in keeping him. He knows there's business left undone in Sacramento with how last year ended. I think that,
Yeah, that's true, especially with his injury happening
yeah,
towards the end of the season. I wonder how much that weighed on him in this decision of, feeling like maybe he wasn't able to help the team take it all the way to the playoffs because of his injury that happened in a pretty clutch time of the year,
yeah,
where the Kings started trailing behind the Mavericks and, ended up in the play-in when really I think they should have been a 6 seed.
yeah. And also, just because you go to a team for more money doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be more success. So yeah, you got more money, but maybe you're not having as much fun as you were in, say, Sacramento and be loved in Sacramento. He's basically like Bobby Jackson 2.0. He's a
Yeah.
newer Bobby Jackson.
Yeah, except I do wonder if he's going to be starting this season coming up.
Yeah, I think that's another thing, and that's the thing. Now we can get it. That's the next step is I think that definitely means Herter is gone. There was already
Yeah,
there was already rumors about Barnes and Herter in the 13th pick being out there for trade bait. And now Monk coming back, that almost definitely says Kings are about, I would say, 90% sure trading that draft pick.
right. And since the finals finished up, and congrats to the Celtics, they obviously were the best team this year, hands down, regular season, postseason, in the finals. Um, Congrats to them, and just what a huge team effort. I think what we see with them is something that the Kings can put together, where you don't have a lot of huge egos. You don't have, like one all-star talent like, the Mavs had with Luka. Um, and you just see a collection of really talented players come together. And I think the Kings, have the opportunity to put something together like that. Um, and ever since that finals finished off, there's been a lot more, it seems like, action and talk of actual trades. It's not as much conjecture, and a lot more teams actually connecting and hearing reports coming out of like what teams are legitimately interested in which players. We saw the Kings were offering, or in discussions, trying to make a deal for Caruso and Zach LaVine, which we had talked about in our last episode, and then found out yesterday Caruso is gone.
He's the Thunder,
been,
which that's gonna make that team scary. Getting
yeah.
Caruso that's scary for that team.
So we still have a shot at Zach LaVine. I think he could be a decent addition. I do think some more height would probably help us.
Yeah, he's only 6'6".
If Malik is going to be moving to the starting lineup, then we definitely, the one missing piece is some extra length.
Yeah, which I don't.
So that kind of changes the priorities.
And like I've said before, I still hard set on Kuzma. I want Kuzma. He's the one.
Yeah.
I believe he's like 6'9", so he's perfect for the 4. He's in the same timeline as Monk, Fox, and Sabonis, and even Murray.
Yeah, kind of in that prime time.
Yeah,
part of their careers.
He not really hurt much. Unlike LaVine, who's always hurt. Yeah. He can't stay on the floor. So but it definitely helps that he agreed to resign so early. So now before the draft, the Kings can prioritize. Okay, we got Monk. Okay, now we know what we need. Now we need to go and get that 3 or that 4 instead of like, oh, do we need to get another guard? Are we losing him? Do we need to do this? But now it's like, okay, we got Brown and Monk signed. All right, that's one. Those are first 2 things we need to do all this offseason. Let's go to our third and let's figure out what we need to do there.
Well, so one of those trades that's being talked about, or the trades that are being talked about always seem to include Barnes and Herter. I don't know if you heard this, but apparently it's come out somewhere in the media that there actually is a decent market and people interested in Kevin Herter.
Yeah.
So despite him having kind of a down year last year and then having the injury that just piled on the bad news for him, there is a good market for him. So I think there is a chance that the Kings have something worth trading and can make a big move. It's just kind of a matter of is our front of the house or back of the house going to make those moves? Like the front office, we didn't see any action in trade deadlines last year. We didn't see major changes last offseason. So I think to move Herter and Barnes for a big player, you don't know how they're going to impact the chemistry of the team. You're kind of creating some holes you'll have to fill with some of your bench players. That's a pretty big risk.
Yeah, but
so
Keon Ellis,
they could roll the dice and it could pay off. But I mean, it's going to be a big risk and make a big change on the team.
Although I will say Keon Ellis stepping up big at the end of last year definitely helps a little bit. Be like, okay, we do have him who can step up and be that backup point guard. So he can kind of take the Malik Monk spot if Monk starts. But like I talked about last week, that with Monk and that starting 5, their defense was terrible last year. No, people failed to realize that team with those five starting, it was not pretty. Yeah, the offense was great, but they don't have much height on the defensive end, so they got used and abused. And of course, that's why they were
Yeah.
able to beat the Warriors, because the Warriors basically were like the mirror image of the Kings. And then the
Mhm.
Kings go and play the Pelicans, and it wasn't pretty at all because they had the height.
Yeah.
So that's what they got. Brown, Monk. Now they need height. Height is the next thing, and they need someone big in that starting lineup, especially if Monk is going to be starting now.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like
A
you're
little
saying,
bit of an
they can't make
go
a
ahead.
move. They can't make a move just to make a move. Like you can't
Mhm.
just say, "Oh, you know what? We haven't done anything. They said we need to do something here. We're going to do this." You got to make sure it fits, and that's why they're in the position they're in. Monte McNair is to make the right big move, not
Right.
to make a move just because. Oh, you know what? We need to do something. Okay, let's do this.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see what comes of Keon Ellis. You know, he's such a young player, and last year he got really his first meaningful minutes towards the end of the season, and we saw how explosive he could be. And I just think, you know, seeing how he's developing in this off season, going into next season, we could see some really good things coming out of Keon Ellis. Of course, everyone's expecting and hoping that Keegan Murray is going to make another leap in his play. We saw some great defensive play out of him last year, but it did seem to impact his offense. So, you know, we have another off season where he's able to rest, he's able to exercise, he's working out with the team, and you know, developing as just a player in the league. And you know, next year could be a big year for Keegan Murray as well.
Yeah,
So we
and I
got
mean,
some good pieces.
and that's the thing. That's why I don't mind them trading that 13th pick because they don't need more young guys. They need
Right.
someone
We've
who
got a lot of
can,
youth and a
yeah,
lot of talented youth.
yeah. I mean, because we got Colby Jones too, who they got in
Mm-hmm.
last year's pick with last year's draft, and he never saw any playing time because they needed someone that can produce now, not a couple years down the road. It's like, okay, you
Yeah.
have to produce now, so they have to go out and get that veteran. And I think Herter has a lot of like people really want him because he's young as well. And yeah,
Yeah.
last year was his down year, but the year before that, he was a big part of the why the Kings played so well is because of his 3-point shooting. And
Just
he actually,
shooting. Yeah.
and he actually had pretty good playmaking. If he wasn't shooting well, he was driving. So I think that's why there's a lot of people intrigued about him possibly joining their team.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you also get
Yeah, and he's a young player, so
yeah,
you know, to a certain extent, you kind of know what you're getting with him. He's kind of been proven in the league, you know, at least having that one great season, and you know, lots of potential for him to keep developing into something special with that shot he's got.
and there's all that bounce back year. And I know teams are like, oh, you know, yeah, he had down year last year, but he's bound to have that bounce back to make up for
All
that
right,
down year.
so back to Malik Monk, lighten the party a little bit. When the season first ended for the Kings and they had their debrief, you know, with the team, and each player had their year-end press conference, Malik talked about, you know, I did what I needed to do. Now it's on my agent. We'll see what happens, kind of thing. And I think people in Sacramento started to really squirm and think,
Here,
wow, he
I
might
was
be gone.
like I told you, I thought for sure he was gone. I was like,
Yeah.
there's no chance he's staying.
So Carmichael Dave had started, of course, you know, he's the
Yeah, it's all
hot stirrer. He started a campaign to keep Malik in Sacramento, had all these people calling in,
yeah.
pledging what they were going to do, businesses pledging, you know, free sushi and you know, as long as you're
It
a
was
Sacramento King,
the Chris Webber
everyone golf courses.
the Chris Webber
Yeah,
2.0.
exactly. Yeah, yep, it's 2.0.
You see the mayor
Part of that was
the keys to the town or keys to the city.
so yeah, Mayor Steinberg offered keys to the city and already, I guess, wrote into the radio station today that he intends to follow up on that. So thanks, Mayor Steinberg, for doing your part. And someone offered to name their baby Malik. So that baby's due next month. So like, I'm wondering how many of these people made offers thinking he was for sure gone, and now they're like, oh, we're gonna have a resurgence of babies named Malik in Sacramento. Someone offered to get his name tattooed on them, so Carmichael Day is trying to get that done in studio to make sure it happens. So
I saw someone.
I just think it's hilarious because we were all so certain that he was going to leave, and people promised some pretty outrageous things.
Someone
So.
said a thumbs down tattoo on their arm because of him and Keegan Murray. So
the Malik signature, yeah,
uh,
grading each other's dunks.
And that just
that
shows that vibe of that team. They just got along so well. They were always going out doing things. You always saw on off days they're like in Napa or something, hanging out. Keegan's always watching
out on the golf course.
Yeah, Keegan's always watching Fox's baby Rain. It's like they call him Uncle Keeg. It's like that vibe on that team we haven't seen since the 02, like the early 2000 Kings.
Yeah.
And that with Monk staying, it just shows you how much he values, like we've said, that team chemistry over individual success. Because if you have that chemistry, you can do so much. But if you don't have any chemistry, you're not going to do anything. Doesn't matter how good those players are.
And I think it's a loyalty factor too. You know, he had his best season here with us. You know, Mike Brown gave him the playing time to really shine and trusted him with some really important minutes, you know, pretty much closing out every game when it was a close game. Malik was out there on the court making a huge difference for the team. And so, you know, that's really what got him in the running for Sixth Man of the Year, which I think we're also a little bitter about him not winning. But, you know, he was able to prove himself as a true NBA player here in Sacramento, where I don't think he was valued at the other teams he was at before, and
he kind of made his name.
Maybe he has some loyalty.
He did start
showing some loyalty with
the Lakers. The Lakers, he kind of showed what he could kind of do, and that's why the Kings took the flyer on him. And then he just took off the last 2 years with the Kings. They really let him come into his own. And I think, like you said, that's a big reason why he decided he stays. Like, you know what? They took a chance on me. Now I'm going to take a chance on them.
All right, let's do this thing. Are you ready for next season? I am.
Like I said, now it's a big thing to see what news is gonna break in the next couple of weeks on trades that they do. Who are they? Because they're working. They're trying to figure something out. It's obvious that, like, okay, they're doing something. They have something up their sleeve. What are they going to do? Who are they going to get?
Yeah. So we should probably plan on having another call immediately after the draft, because we may get some big news out of that. You never know what's going to happen. Draft nights can be unpredictable. It might even be,
it could even be before the draft. They could that draft.
Absolutely. If not before then, draft nights can be unpredictable. You might have a team who knew what their game plan was going into it. That 13th pick comes along and they're like, well, we really wanted that guy, and he happened to still be around for 13. So let's call the Kings and make a deal right now.
So who knows with the draft coming up, what's going to happen? Who knows? Maybe we'll have another emergency podcast here in a couple of days.
Do it. Fire drill.
Yep.
I'll be on call.
Yep. All right. So we'll wrap that up. If you guys haven't already, please hit the like and subscribe down below. Maybe we'll see you in a couple of days. See you on the other side.